Welcome to Collegiate Conversations, a space for conversations of all shapes and sizes coming out of the Collegiate Church Network. Today we are kicking off, or actually continuing, our conversations around personal health and the idea of growing in areas of mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and relational health. And today we have as a guest, Kevin Rogan. So Kevin, thank you for being a part of this conversation. And as we've been starting all these conversations with, we want to just give a moment for you to kind of share who you are for people who don't know. So could you start sharing a little bit about yourself, where you are currently serving in Collegiate, how long you've been there, and then maybe briefly your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, I currently serve in Collegiate at New Life Church in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I found the church actually as a student in college, came to faith through the ministry here. So love Collegiate, love what y'all are doing. And yeah, I'm currently serving as Director of Development here at New Life. I love getting my hands into all things fundraising related, serving on the collegiate level there also. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me and where I was and where I am now. I am mostly holed up in my home. I have a wife and 3 kids, a high schooler, middle schooler, and elementary schooler. So we're definitely living the pandemic life, all trying to find our spaces. That's why I'm sitting here in my bedroom. This is my office. And it's certainly not ideal, but I think we all know we're trying to innovate and just survive these times, and just trying to understand, how do we do work? How do we do life? And how do we stay healthy?
Amen. I can relate. I am in my second office, my car. So thanks so much, Kevin. We brought you on here today to talk about health. It's a large topic, but particularly about how you have pursued health through fitness, and especially with the family unit, like your family, you involve and you're engaged. Could you start off just sharing a bit of overview of how you think about health in this area and how you pursue it?
Yeah, I've always been someone who's been active. And when I came to faith in college, I was in college running at that time. And so coming to faith, and it was through actually some connections I had on the team. So faith and activity were like very close to one another from the very beginning of my spiritual journey with the Lord. And I remember deliberating, like, do I just stop running now and just go all in for Jesus? And I remember a moment where the Lord was like, no, this is your mission field. Like, you are in this space, this is your mission field. And so that's been just closely tied for me for the last 20 years in my walk with the Lord. And yeah, so that's kind of how that's come about. I'm super passionate about remaining healthy. I just always, here's the honest truth, I just didn't want to be one of those dads that couldn't wrestle on the ground or run after his kids outside. And so that's also been a motivating factor of like, how do I just keep pace with my kids, with my family? And it's been a tremendous opportunity for me to meet new people in my community. I think one of the things that's hard, especially in campus-based missionary work, is what does it look like to have friendships, especially as you get older and older. And so I'm 41 years old now, and hanging out with an 18 to 22-year-old just doesn't seem to jive very well in my mind. And I've got a family, and so I've had to learn how to make friends with people outside of my staff team. And for me, that's just come in the realm of fitness. So, and fitness has looked different for me over the years. I can go into more detail on that if you'd like me to. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about right here.
Share a little bit about your journey of fitness, how it has morphed and changed. And even if you want, I know you have a pretty cool story. You mentioned there your faith at University of Michigan when you were on the track team, and that was integrated. But your wife also, like, your connection and your family built out of that space as well. So could you share a little bit about that and just kind of how it has changed over the years for you?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, so I became a Christian Um, and kind of right about that same time, my wife, who was my friend then, she was already running for the Lord, and she felt led by the Lord to actually step out of running. She was dealing with injuries and whatnot. So we had this weird intersection where I was like, I was running, she was running, and then as I came to faith, she left running, but I stayed in it. Um, and so, but yeah, that's just, it's been a strong tie for us over the years. It's something that we would always do together in our early years of marriage. We'd go out, go on a run together. And so, for me, I had to set aside my competitive goals. I actually saw that as a barrier in my relationships, in particular with my wife, because if I wanted to run competitively still, that meant that probably wasn't going to be running her pace. And so I actually set aside competing for 9 years, and just said, you know what, I want running to be about relationships. And so, yeah, all that was kind of done in the context of running, but injuries come along as you get older, as you do things. I turned to swimming during a time when I wasn't allowed to run for 12 months. That was really hard on me. But I said, what am I going to do with that? I gotta find an alternative. And so I started swimming for the first time in my life. And I was like it was funny to watch me swim. I had to learn how to swim properly, even though I grew up on a lake. I just assumed, oh, I know how to swim. And I got in a pool and I was just flailing around. It was, it was a bit of a comedy there in the pool. But there was this 85-year-old woman who was there every day swimming in this same pool. And it was just so inspiring to me. I built a friendship with her just in the context of swimming at the pool. Our world values were so far apart, but our desire over swimming and our common ground over swimming was great. And she kind of kept me coming to the pool. It got to the point where she was swimming so much faster than me, and she kind of stoked some competitiveness, and that helped me find a sport. I was like, wow, I can really enjoy swimming. And then as that season came where I could run again, I obviously got back and running, and eventually got into doing some biking too. So swimming, biking, running, those are the three things we do. I do in particular, my family. Probably the funnest time we have is when we go on family bike rides. There's this trail near a river here, about 15-minute drive from us in a little town called Dexter. And we just love going out there as a family. You can make it a 5-mile ride. You can make it as long as a 15-mile ride. And we just love going out there, just slowly biking along, talking, just enjoying God's creation. So does that answer the
That's
question?
awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, what are some of the things that have aided or hindered you pursuing health through this
Mm,
personally or with your family, over the years? What have you learned along the way?
yeah. Well, the first thing I think of in both the aiding and hindrance is when I do this with other people, whether it's talking about it, whether it's actually physically exercising, that has been a huge, huge help for me to remain disciplined, for me to put in the work. So it's little things like getting on Strava. For years, Strava is an app that you can track your physical activity, and then your friends see it, you can see theirs. For years, I resisted getting on there, but I was like, no, I should do that. That's actually going to encourage me and help me keep moving forward as I see my friends are doing things. So that it's just little decisions like that have been really helpful of how I do this with others. And again, when I've made decisions to not do it with others, to go out and just do it on my own, I've just seen that impact my family negatively, because that's the cost. It's my family gets less of my time, or my job gets less of my time. And if I'm honest, it usually was my family. So learning how to do this with others, there were years where I was that guy around town pushing the double jogging stroller. I think it was like 7 years straight, as my kids phased through all that. And then there came a time where two of my kids were biking and I'm pushing the last kid in the stroller. And then it got to the point where they're all biking and I'm running. And so I've just tried to get creative around how do I keep doing this with others, and trying to model to my family, to my kids in particular, what it looks like to live an active lifestyle. So.
Mm. That's great. Well, you're definitely modeling for more than just your family. I know locally, our church, those who know you in the movement, have been following along with it. And am one of those who benefited from your relationship in running. And that was something that, for me, it exposed the power of having someone else with you, but also how you do more than just physical health in these moments. Like, you connect to the spiritual, you connect, mentally, in conversation, relationally with people. I can remember, I think it was 4 years ago, I was training for my first marathon, and it was the longest run I had ever done. It was 12 miles. We were at a camp, and we had to run around. We were going to run around this entire lake, and I got to the 9-mile marker. And if you remember this, and I was like, this is the point at which I hate running. I said that to you. And you said, without missing a beat, and the pace was much slower for you, so you were like not winded. You sounded like you had just been sitting on a couch. You're like, well, sounds like a good time to pray. And then you prayed for like 2 miles straight, all about our life, our marriages, what's going on in a moment, strength. I was so impacted by the power of that moment. Can you just share a little bit more about how you have engaged with God and that spiritual connection and the relational connections that happen through this?
Yeah, no, I remember that day. It was hot and humid, even though we were out early that day. We needed prayer. You needed prayer in particular. I saw the hurt you were feeling. But yeah, it's here's when I was in high school, I started running in ninth grade, because I was getting pummeled on the football field for the first day of practice, and I just decided I'm not going to do this anymore. And I remember I was also taking German classes, and this story will connect. Every time I would go for a run, I would get in this space in my head where I'm just speaking German nonstop. And that is kind of how it looked for me with running until I came to know Christ in college. And I just think this was probably a work of the Spirit in my own life, but almost on a dime, it just flipped. And I still kept speaking German in my head in college. And then when I became a Christian, it just started turning into praying. And so, I don't know what that is and just how God wired me, but it is a space where I feel free to worship. I look around in particular. I love running in the country, out on trails, down the dirt roads that I live on. I love biking on dirt roads because I just get to see the beauty of God's creation, and it kind of just draws me into that space of just awe and wonder, and leads me to that space of gratitude. And that's really where a lot of my prayers are. And there are other seasons of life that are hard, especially like in this pandemic. And man, I've prayed so much, just asking God, give me strength, give me faith, give me endurance, help me innovate, help me to do my job differently, because this has been hard on all of us, and it's been hard on me too. And even with exercise, I've had to innovate, and I was praying and asking God, what do I do? Because I'm the kind of guy that I always set a goal. And when I set a goal, I'm pretty good at sticking to it. Well, it was hard to set a goal because for me, that always meant pick a race and sign up for it. And then that would hold me accountable. But there were no races to sign up for in 2020. Everything was canceled. So again, the importance of doing that with others, and just being able to be out in God's creation, have been a real impact for me. And that's kind of that blend between my fitness and my faith, and that's what it looks like for me.
That's awesome. So, though there weren't a ton of races to sign up for, there was one that you did get to do, I know of, that was pretty big. It was called the Crusher. Could you share a little bit about that, and then the journey you went on? I think it was powerful. It kind of ties right into what you were saying about relationships matter, and what you described of how you actually finished this thing. I think is really good for all of us to hear.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say that's a day I'll never forget, but that actually was like 2 days I'll never forget. The Crusher was this is an intersection of a lot of relationships in life. The short story is there's a ministry partner who was kind of the ringleader around me and even some people, a former U of M student and some former U of M students who are also involved in the Wayne State Church plant, and involved in the church there. And the five of us decided, yeah, let's go do this. Um, the race was canceled. Again, you couldn't do it, but what they did is over a 3-month span, they said, hey, you can come up here and here's the file, and we will let you, go do the course. And so that's what we did.
How long is this course and where is it?
Yeah, so it's out in kind of the middle of nowhere in the UP. It goes through rugged terrain, logging trails, a 3-mile climb up a quote unquote Michigan mountain. It was about 258 miles. My unit stopped and failed before the end, so I didn't actually get the full log, but yeah, 14,000 feet of climbing. You look at something like this and you go, why in the world would I ever do it? And for me, it came down to, I'm going to be in God's creation for a long time with others. And that was something I learned on my sabbatical, 2.5 years ago, how important it was for me to be in God's creation. And that as I do that with others, it's even more refreshing for me. And so, yeah, that's what I went up and I did. And it was crazy. About mile 170 at 4 a.m, the thunderstorms came rolling in. It went from 86 degrees in the Saturday and Sunday morning there. It was down to 56. I literally froze. I'm riding in pouring rain, 25-mile-an-hour winds, freezing to death. And all that I knew, I said, to stay safe, I just need my core to stay warm, which meant I cannot stop. So I just kept biking slowly but surely. And I kept reflecting on a verse. It was Psalm 23:1. The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. There were a lot of things I wanted in that moment. I wanted warmer weather. I wanted dry weather. I wanted dry clothes, but I didn't need them. My core was warm. That's what I needed. And I just kept pressing into that in hopes of getting to the finish line. And 3 of the 5 of us got there, and it was a day out, again, a 33-hour stretch with no sleep that I'll never forget, because I was, again, drawn into worship of the Lord in what he's able to help us do when we think, oh, there's no way I can do this. Because there were some walls there. Don't get me wrong. I am an optimist, but man, it was like, is this even wise? There were a lot of questions along the way, and that was a good moment for me to just experience Jesus, his safety, his care, his comfort, and he helped me persevere.
Amazing, incredible. If you want to hear more about that, definitely reach out to Kevin. There are some amazing little nuggets and stories along the way of provision and what God did and how they persevered. Love it. Thank you so much, Kevin. What advice or counsel would you give to others in Collegiate based on what God has taught you in this area, for those who are maybe slightly engaged with it or thinking about, physical fitness, engaging in some way? What would you just counsel us in?
Yeah, again, I think the number one thing there is find others to do this with. Matt Wilkowski is a great example. We don't get to ride together that often. We did do it once this summer, but he's someone who, like, if it's a conversation about what kind of bike to get, if it's a conversation about what kind of gear to use, maybe it's just commenting on each other's Strava feeds. That's a great example of I can share here with hopefully someone that a lot of you know, of just like doing what does that look like to do it with others, especially in a pandemic when we're all so distanced and not seeing one another in person. But I had a conversation with him last year at our conference about what kind of bike to get, and then he pointed me to the husband of a wife in our network. Go talk to Jake. He knows a lot about bikes, and all this stuff just kind of fits together of how the thread for me is keeping relationships primary, and then the competition, the activity secondary. And that's hard to do from someone who's very competitive, but keeping those relationships primary. I think has been a huge blessing, a huge gift to me, and to others, and we get to do it together. So that would be the primary thing, and I think the other thing is, in regards to just advice or tips I'd pass along is find what you like to do. Don't let others tell you what to do, and be adaptable and be listen. Like one thing I've had to learn is that I've had to listen to my body. Uh, you know, lately I haven't been able to run, which is my passion, like my first love when it comes to fitness. But I have a sore hip. I was in physical therapy and then COVID hit, wasn't able to finish it. And that has just been drawn out. And there's been a lot of disappointment in that. But as I do this with others, they can encourage me, keep pressing on, find something else. And that's where biking fell in the summer for me and doing this crazy things like Crusher and just ride miles with others. I was always doing that with others. And being able to listen to my body, uh, I think really set me up to experience the joy in these areas that I might not have um, pursued if I hadn't been listening to my body. So it's really important to listen to your body. Um, I could go on and on about the importance of nutrition and hydration. Like one thing I've had to be more disciplined than ever in the pandemic is drinking water and not going to the sugar drinks, which I absolutely love. Um, that's been a hard thing, but there's so many things more I could share here, but it's yeah, doing it with others and really listening to your body, like mentally, physically, spiritually. What do you need? Being able to answer that question, what do I need, and making space to answer that, and then letting others know how they can play a part in that.
That's great. Uh, is there a scripture or a verse that has been meaningful or helpful to you in this season, in particular, through the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm going to point you right back to Psalm 23:1. Again, the Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. I mean, everything has been flipped upside down.
Mm.
I do a lot with end of year fundraising, and this week I had all these appointments set up to go to places. And then in our state here, we were just given an order where all my meetings that were supposed to happen in restaurants and all these towns can't do it. It's not legal anymore. And so it's like, okay, what do I do with that? And I keep to find peace because that's just so disrupting and frustrating and for both sides, them and me. And I have to keep coming back to that verse. The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. I'm just finding a lot of peace in remembering who God is, what He's able to do, and that He actually gives me and is able to provide everything I need, even when things get flipped upside down, like they did this week. Or, for example, in my fitness goals and my hopes and desires with running, that got flipped upside down because of an injury. Okay, let's
Yeah,
find something I can do safely.
that's good. That's a good word for all of us. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the gift of just getting to receive and hear your stories and all that you have done, have learned through this, and it's just an inspiration to hear. So to wrap this conversation up, we have a few quick hitting questions that we've been asking everyone. They're short, sweet answers. They don't have to relate to anything that you've shared already. So I'm just going to go through these. The first one is, who or what is inspiring you right now?
I'm watching the Michael Jordan documentary with my son, and to see Michael Jordan's drive to be successful at basketball, it's really made me sit and ponder, um, what does it look like for me to be successful as a Christian man in marriage, in family, in work, in life. So
Oh, that's really good. All right, number two, who is someone else in Collegiate that you think we should talk to, and what should we talk to them about?
oh, Matt Wilkowski. It's probably because I just interact with him a decent amount on this stuff. And I love, you can talk to him about anything in the realm of fitness, whether that's, how has this been a ministry for you? How does it fulfill you personally? Nutrition, gear, all that sort of stuff. I think he'd be a great resource. Has been for
That's
me.
fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like it. That's awesome. With no explanation or context, what is one song or artist that you would recommend right now?
I've been listening to some U2, man. I went back to my roots, my childhood. U2, the Joshua Tree album in particular. I don't know what it is about it, man. It just makes me feel good
All right.
listening to them sing. So
U2, Joshua Tree. All right. And the last, again, with no explanation or context, what is something you think everyone should try at least once?
what is one thing everyone should try at least once?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think you should try zip lining at least once. I have a little bit of story there. The other thing I might recommend is if your body would let you try it once, try and climb a peak out in the Rockies that's 14,000 feet or higher. The view up there is unlike anything I've ever seen.
That's awesome. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for today's conversation, for your vulnerability, your openness. We are grateful for all that you are doing, leaning into health with Jesus, following him. It's an inspiration. It's an encouragement. Thanks for just exposing some of that to all of us. And thanks for leaning in and trying to live healthy. For Collegiate, that is it. Go and do likewise and listen and walk in that exhortation, the word that he gave of the Lord is our shepherd. We have all that we need. All right. Take care.